All right. So recently, I'm sitting here with my father, Michael Swinwood, and he recently, he's gonna conk out on us any moment now. He recently won a really big case. He's a lawyer, and he won a pretty big case. It's not the first case you've won. Years and years ago, you won a really big case as well at Lang Mitchner. Is that right if I mention that?
I don't even know what you're talking about, but
When you left the firm and you had to get all your files.
oh, that wasn't such a big deal.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not such a big deal. I guess what I'm driving at is I'm trying to find out from you if you have a winning formula. What is it that allows you to turn the court in your favor or allows you to win a case? What is your winning formula?
That's an excellent question because at one point in time, I would have thought my answer would have been preparation and having law cases on your side and being able to argue some kind of a brilliant argument. But I've been dispelled of that notion since I began to do native work. And I came to the realization that it's something I said at the very beginning of this interview. Scripts are already written and outcomes are already known. And when we begin to walk through the challenges of what it is that we must do and come to the realization that spirit is in control and not ourselves, then we become quote unquote more successful. And not successful in the way that most people would understand it. They would perhaps equate success to material return and material goods, but I'm speaking of success in terms of destiny actually being fulfilled. My practice now is to do ceremony before having to go into court and giving it over, acknowledging that even a bad result can have a good effect. That acknowledging each step along the way is just simply steps along the way. There's a very important book that if one didn't have any other book in their library but this book, they would know everything. And it's The Three Mountains by Samael Aun Weor, the head of the International Gnostic Movement, who is now in the spirit world, and Willaru Waita from Peru, from Cusco, Peru's master, and therefore my teacher. And Samael, in speaking about the concept of being able to do and to be, is to foremost make your connection to spirit and make your requests through ceremony for outcome. Being in a situation of being able to climb the three mountains, the mountain of initiation, the mountain of resurrection, and the mountain of ascension. This is really our goal in life, is to come to the realization that we have to climb these three mountains. So all along the way, everything that I do, in essence, is a test of my connection to spirit. And so if I seek outcome on behalf of my clients, then I really must pray first, and I really must do ceremony first, and I really must put result in the fire, if you will, and make the request that the best outcome be achieved.
Thank you. When you say ceremony and prayer, when you say you do ceremony, how would you outline that for someone who is not familiar with First Nation tradition, or what ceremony is? If you could, in a nutshell, so we can squeak in a couple more questions. I'd like to get some pretty hefty questions in, and so I'm just wondering if you can outline for us, what is ceremony?
That's a very deep question, and you're right. I'll do my best to condense for you so you can move on to your next questions. But the easiest way of doing this is to say this. All of us, all of the races, when we come to the realization of our connection to Mother Nature, will come to the realization of what ceremony is. So we have to know that the air, the earth, the water, and the fire are intelligence within the air is intelligence within the water, within the fire, within the earth. There is intelligence. And when we revere that intelligence, we're doing ceremony. When we come to the realization of our relationship to the Mother Earth, who gives us everything, she gifts us with everything. We're gifted with clothing, we're gifted with shelter, we're even gifted with the money from the Mother Earth because it comes from the trees that are cut down and made into print. So, you know, in the end, all the energy flows from the Mother Earth, and everything that we are given, including gold, which is revered now. You know, the gold that resides within the Mother Earth is an example of the existence of spirit, because spirit is the one who put it there. All of the things that come from the Mother Earth, therefore, we need to acknowledge. And when we acknowledge at a deeper level, we're doing ceremony. Now, in the native tradition, the easiest way of talking about ceremony is let's just contemplate the sacred fire as one. There are many. There's the sun dance, there's the sweat lodge, there's the potlatch. There are all sorts of ceremonies, and they each have their own meaning. So when I say I want to do ceremony, then I can approach and identify it and say I'm going to do a sun dance. Well, a sun dance has a whole bunch of components attached to it. Or I'm going to do a sweat lodge. Well, it has a bunch of components that are attached to it. But the two of them share the same thing, and that is the sacred fire. Then in the sweat lodge, there is a sacred fire. In the sun dance, there is a sacred fire. And in fact, meaning we're doing a sun dance, well, we're dancing to the sun, which is the sacred fire. And the sun represents a physical sun, which masks an absolute sun much, much grander than what we see, and filled with light, and where we all came from, in fact, as sparks of that absolute sun. So ceremony revolves around this concept of the relationship between air, earth, water, and fire. And how I do ceremony is I acknowledge first and foremost those elements, and I use one of those elements, if not all of them, to bring about my prayer. So I come to a circle if I'm alone or if I'm with others. But, you know, doing ceremony on these court cases, we have committed to each other to do ceremony. We have committed to keeping together and keeping our focus through ceremony. So we come together in circle. We just 2 weeks ago did a sacred fire, all for the purposes of giving us strength to go forward in the court cases that we have in front of us. And to the sacred fire, we speak and say our prayers and acknowledge each other and the task ahead and what the challenge is. We say it, we articulate it, and we pray to the elements in the creative force to assist us. So that's the best way of describing ceremony.
Nice. Why should one not concern oneself with the result of a situation or thing? Why should one not concern oneself with result?
Because we only can be with result. We really can't make result. And the fallacy of the human being is that they follow into their egos. The egos are represented in the 7 cardinal sins: lust, anger, pride, envy, greed, laziness, and gluttony. And when we are controlled by our egos, we think that we can influence result by the way that we act and the way that we behave. And that by our actions and our behavior that we bring about result. But this is a fallacy, because result is only brought about because the great mystery deems it so. And when we come to this realization, then we begin to give up attachment to result. Most human beings in their professions, in whatever it is that they do, particularly you hear this over and over and over again in business. I want results. This is what I want, is I want results. And so then in a business you can say, well, the results are a balance sheet, and the balance sheet says I have to have more than less.
You can answer that phone.
Hello? Hello?
Thank you.